They never see it coming.
Welcome back to the Fantasy Brothers podcast. It's Josh. It's Ben. It's a Thursday. We're getting one in before the Thursday night game.
They play in like 30 minutes. We got to rush through this.
We got to go speed mode. The need for speed is real. We've got starts of the week. We've also got a little special trade candidates segment here on this episode. We're going to make some predictions, and they're all going to come true.
Yeah. No real news yet. Obviously, we're going to be breaking it here because we're geniuses. But more of just a
Absolutely.
discussion, think tank, brainstorm kind of thing.
Absolutely. And there's nothing better than two dudes who do this in their spare time having a think tank about fantasy football.
Essentially, things we just want to happen.
Honest, yes, these are very rosy scenarios. We'll be totally honest with
All
you.
of these are like best case scenario, like Jonathan Taylor getting traded to Miami back when he was having all his drama kind of stuff.
You notice how none of the best case scenarios ever happen, ever.
Nope.
DeAndre Hopkins was supposed to be a Bill.
It never. The only ones that work out are the ones like you don't expect. Like when Tyreek Hill got traded to the Dolphins, everybody was like, "Oh
Yeah,
my God!" Like you took him away from Mahomes and all this stuff, and oh, now he's better than he ever has been.
yeah. Or Stephon Diggs, or AJ Brown. Those ones were nice.
Yeah, Diggs was a big one. AJ Brown has more yards than all the Titans receivers combined, so the Titans won that trade.
I know we know this already, but I think about this sometimes. Stephon Diggs was like a middling wide receiver too with the Vikings. I mean, he was good, right? But he was not. He was a flex.
I was a big Diggs fan when he was in the Vikings. I've actually got a Diggs jersey on my wall over here from when he was with the Vikings.
Oh, there you go. You're an OG then.
Yeah, I'm not a bandwagon Diggs fan. I've been here for a while.
But then obviously he goes to the Bills and turns into Diggs. I mean, but like I don't know. I think about that sometimes. Like Minnesota Diggs, he was really good, but man, he was not Buffalo Diggs. There's
Minnesota
a
Diggs
stark
was like
difference.
really good. You knew he was better than Thielen, but Thielen was always it was like a 50-50 split between them.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyways, that was the tangent for the day. If you enjoyed this episode, if you enjoy this podcast, if you're watching on YouTube, there's a couple things
Welcome.
you can do to help us out. Number one, if you're listening on audio, you can subscribe, rate the show, review the show wherever you're listening to your podcast. It helps us out a bunch. If you're on YouTube, subscribe, hit that little bell notification button right next to the subscribe button. It will let you know when we go live. We go live Tuesdays and Thursdays. I think that's our
Usually,
schedule now. Give or take a day. But it will let
sometimes we're
you
a little
know
lazy.
and you can tune in live before the episode goes out on audio. It's a fun time. So that's my little pitch. That helps us out a ton. Rate us, review us, subscribe wherever you can do that, and we are eternally grateful for it.
There you go.
All right, spiel over. Why don't we talk some NFL news?
Oh boy, got some good stuff today.
We do. David Montgomery not practicing. He is not on schedule to play Sunday. I tend to look at it like if they don't get a limited practice in by Friday, it's a wrap. A lot of times, though, if they don't get a limited in on Thursday, that's that's a wrap. But obviously, if they practice Friday, there's a chance. But usually, if it doesn't happen by Thursday, it's not going to happen.
Monitor it for sure, but Gibbs fans breathe another sigh of relief. You might have one more week where you can play him,
You might have
and I'm
one more,
excited about it.
and they're playing
I'm very
Vegas
excited.
too. You informed me it's
It is
Vegas, so that's a wheels
it
up
is one you got
matchup.
to be careful of because it is a Monday night game. If for some miracle Dan Campbell's like, nah, Montgomery's playing on Monday morning, like, oh, wonderful.
He
I
would do
saved
something like
Gibbs this
that,
whole
wouldn't he?
time. Yeah.
That would be the Dan Campbell move. He'd be like, Gibbs, oh, the excitement. No, I'm gonna punt it into the sun. David Montgomery, here we go.
David Montgomery, go limp out there on one leg and score 3 touchdowns.
You know he would do it.
Yeah, I know.
He would do it specifically to spite you and
Yeah.
for no other reason whatsoever.
And I would hold Gibbs' hand as we jump into a furnace.
Tyler Lockett and Kenneth Walker also did not practice today. Again, not official. Don't hear what I'm not saying. But if you don't get a limited practice by Thursday, usually means you're not going to play on Sunday.
Your odds are going down quickly.
I guess that means wheels up for Jackson Smith and Jigba again, and for your guy.
Let's see
Zach
the rookies. Charbonnet season.
What are you going to do if Zach Charbonnet goes out and has 80 yards and 2 touchdowns?
I'll be incredibly excited, only for Walker to take it all away next week.
Oh yeah, I mean it's like the Dave Montgomery situation, but on steroids.
It's like the Dave Montgomery situation, except we knew coming into this that Charbonnet was the backup. We thought Gibbs would have a great role. We were lied to.
It's so weird. Yeah, you know how I think we talked about this on an episode at some point during the offseason, where at a certain point with draft capital, running backs, when you're drafted very highly, you just are sort of a shoe-in for a certain amount of work. And neither Bijan nor Gibbs have gotten the requisite work that you would expect by their draft capital. Not that they haven't produced with the work they've gotten. They've looked great. The problem is they just haven't gotten the work that you would expect based on where they were drafted, which has been a little weird.
Yeah, it's really weird, especially coming into this. I know you and I were, and other fantasy content creators, that I listen to and a lot of people do, we were all kind of on the same page. As you look at the past, 5-10 years, and a running back's drafted that high, like 9 out of 10 times that like they all smash and are top 10 running backs like their rookie seasons, and it just hasn't happened for these two, which is shocking. Like the top 12 draft capital for running back is almost a guarantee.
I think there's been 2 running backs that were not smashes that were first round picks.
Melvin Gordon was one.
You're right. Melvin Gordon, he might be the one exception here. I think I forgot about him. I was thinking about Christian McCaffrey and C.J. Spiller. Those are the only two I can think of.
Was good his rookie year.
He was the
RB11. He didn't smash. Which, I mean, I feel like if I got the RB11, like you're not upset. Like you had a decent season.
No. Yeah, and honestly, Bijan is going to be
Bijan will still get that for sure.
Gibbs may or may not. Jury's still out.
Gibbs, I'm still holding out hope that he can crack the top 15 still, probably. I mean, the talent's there. You've seen it when he gets the full workload. Like, he's amazing. Yeah. And down the stretch, I think when they need him, he's gonna rise to the challenge. But he's just kind of got to establish himself still with Dan Campbell and the coaching staff, I think.
He does. More like this past Sunday in Week 7. If he does more of that,
if he does more of that, he can crack the top 10.
Yeah, that was good stuff. Tyreek Hill logged a limited practice today, but he told reporters that he would play Sunday. There was a lot of doubt about his availability for Sunday. He says he's going to play. I guess plan on him playing.
Yeah, I'm not incredibly worried about him. Obviously, there's things can happen, but if he's saying he's going to play, then he's probably going to play.
Unless Mike McDaniel goes, I don't know.
I doubt
about that one.
I doubt it.
I doubt it, dude. Mike McDaniel's going to be like, yeah, sure, you want to play? Go for it. Dawson Knox was placed on IR on Monday, which is
oh boy,
very sad news for Dawson Knox, but it's amazing news for everybody else because Dalton Kincaid had 8 catches for 75 yards on Sunday, and he has yet to run like a full what am I trying to say here? He's yet to be a full-time player with Dawson Knox in the lineup. He's still shown flashes. He's still produced. I need to look at what his actual ranking is because I am not sure if he is like in the top 10 tight ends yet. He's kind of on that fringe, I feel like, if he's not quite there yet.
Peek at him somewhere. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised just because it's the tight end position. Like, the tight end 10, you may never have even heard of before. So that's just the nature of the position.
So
Dalton Kincaid.
Let's see here. Dalton Kincaid is
20.
He's 20.
Why tight end 20?
Yikes. Well, that's not great.
But he had 15 this past week.
He did. He had 8 for 75 this past weekend, and the headline is Dawson Knox is out of the picture, which means that Dalton Kincaid can be freed up to be a full-time player and hopefully build on this past week's performance.
If he explodes in these next 4 weeks, and
yes,
I'm thinking
whatever
if
you're
he,
about to say, yes.
Yeah. If he averages like 12 points a game, 12 to 13 points, I think he can potentially jump up there to Sam Laporta level value.
Yes. I knew what you were going to say before you said it. Yes. If Dalton Kincaid in the next 4 weeks shows out, that's all she wrote. I know Dawson Knox is signed. He's there for a few years. But I just have a thing.
Kincaid is a better tight end.
Yes.
And he's been better this year.
Kincaid
with them both on the field.
They're like two different. They both are listed at tight end, but they are not the same. Dawson Knox is a blocker, and a very good one at that. He got paid a lot of money for it. But Dalton Kincaid is basically a receiver. I mean, he is in the vein of the Mark Andrews, Travis Kelce, not in the sense of like the truly elite difference maker for fantasy,
Yeah,
but like
he's not there yet, but
he doesn't block. Dalton Kincaid he's not there to block. He's there to catch passes, and that's what they use him for.
I mean, they traded up in the first round to get him to do that.
Yes, and so far he's not been amazing. Obviously, the tight end 20 is not amazing, but I think he's shown some flashes, and he has shown. It's shown that the Bills are willing to integrate him into the offense. So I'm really curious to see what happens tonight and over the next few weeks.
Yep,
could be very, very awesome. Last bit here, Kyler Murray is off the injury report. He's been activated off of IR. He's had 2 full practices this week.
Help is on the way.
He could play this week.
Probably not.
I doubt it.
I would love to see it personally. I'm not sitting here like I don't think he plays this week. Like I want to see him play, but he's probably not going to.
I honestly don't think he's going to play till week 10, personally.
I think it's a chance he comes back against Cleveland. With him, he's logging full practices. They're taking him off the injury report. They haven't, I guess, activated him yet, but all signs point to they're going to do it soon. I think he could play.
Maybe it's stupid, but I just don't feel like it's a good idea to let your diminutive post-ACL quarterback in his first week back deal with Myles Garrett.
Well, no, that's fair.
I mean, maybe that's just like armchair quarterbacking.
But I mean, Gardner Minshew also smoked him last week.
He did, but at the same time, the Browns' defense was good. Just they weren't good at preventing points being scored on the scoreboard. It was the weirdest game ever, where on alternating plays, their defense went from looking like the most dominant defense you've ever seen to the worst defense you've ever seen.
Yeah, they should have lost that game if not for the refs.
They should have. They should have. Their fantasy, what did they score? Like 17, 18 fantasy points as a defense, and they allowed 38 points?
Yeah.
And 500 yards?
I don't know how that's possible.
Because I'm pretty sure they had a defensive touchdown, like 4 or 5 sacks, a fumble, maybe an interception in there too.
That was the best, worst performance I've ever seen.
That's exactly what that was. That was the best, worst performance I've ever seen. Alrighty. We've got starts of the week. You're here for them every single week. Ben, lead us off with your first start of the week.
My first one is it's a weird one. It's kind of a risky one. I think I've got him on here because if he doesn't really do much this week, I'm kind of out on him for good, sort of. It's Miles Sanders. I know Miles has been a disappointment. You and I were both really high on him coming into this year. He has not been what we had hoped. He has been banged up. He missed the game before the bye. So he's had 2 weeks to kind of get healthy. You're going up against the Texans, and granted, the Texans have been much better than advertised going into this year. But it's still the Texans. I'm not terrified of that defense. They historically have had a very bad run defense. So I would fire up Miles Sanders this week, but if he doesn't do it this week, I'm out.
That makes sense. The Texans are a defense you want to target for sure. And like them, Chicago. I don't know if you said this before we were recording. If it's not going to happen this week, it ain't going to happen.
Yeah.
So
maybe it's been a health thing. I'm hoping it's just a health thing, which is why I'm willing to do it one more time. Take a shot on him this week. Should be a close game against the Texans, but yeah, if it doesn't happen this week, it's not going to.
Mine, it's also going to be a little bit out of left field. I'm trying to stretch my boundaries a little bit. I'm trying to expand out of just the studs because we get it. They're good. But I'm going to go Kareem Hunt versus the Seahawks. And maybe it's cherry picking a little bit because Jerome Ford is likely not going to play on Sunday.
Got a cupcake over here.
But the Cleveland Browns starting running back, whether it be Jerome Ford or Nick Chubb, have been averaging 14 PPR points per game. And on top of that, Kareem Hunt does have double-digit PPR points the past 2 weeks.
Heck, he had 15 this past week.
So Seattle's no juggernaut against the run. I'll be the first to admit it. As a Seattle Seahawks fan, we are no juggernaut against the run. And all Cleveland wants to do is run the ball. P.J. Walker being their quarterback means they won't throw the ball. And if Kareem Hunt rips off a long run, there's your fantasy day right there. We saw it just this past week. Doesn't take a whole lot for a Cleveland Browns running back to win you a week, or at least come through for you for a week. So Kareem Hunt it is versus the Seahawks.
I like it. Receivers. I'll take Devonta Smith up against the Commanders this week. Devonta, he's another one. He's been relatively disappointing this year. I was kind of high on him. I actually traded for him in a dynasty league because I thought this is probably a good time to buy low.
You need to talk about this trade.
Oh yeah,
we gotta let them know what happened.
People are going to roast me for it. It's
to give a little bit of background for those of you who've been listening. A lot has been made out of your 3 tight end situation in this league. I've seen the comments. People are intrigued by it. There's been a lot of commentary about it on the internet.
Went viral for my 3 tight end set I've been running.
Yeah, it was funny because you were like, "It's brutal. I'm starting 3 tight ends," but all the comments were like, "Is anybody going to tell him he's got 3 of the top 4 tight ends?"
I mean, I know it's 3 of the top 4 tight ends. Like, I've got Kelsey, I've got Hockenson, and I was running out Sam Laporta, who I got late in the rookie draft. But, like, I've got so many injuries at wide receiver. I've lost Jefferson, all these guys. And the running back situation itself even is kind of sketchy in this league, or at least it's not what it used to be. This is a team that's been dominant for years, and this year the league is kind of caught up a little bit, which is fine, but then the injuries have also taken a toll. So I was looking for another receiver to kind of just help bolster that room. So I traded Sam Laporta and Tank Bigsby for Devonta Smith. And I still view Smith as a really good dynasty receiver. So I've got him and Sam Laporta kind of valued equally in my mind. And if I have to throw on Tank Bigsby, who I don't really have much value for, especially in that league, then fine. Let's get the deal done.
Yeah, that was one of those moves where you had a need and you also had a surplus of tight ends. Maybe the surplus of tight ends.
Yeah, I wasn't actively I don't want to sell Laporta. I like him. I think he's legit. I think he's good. But adding a receiver helps me more than having 3 top tight ends.
Agreed. I do think at the end of the day, Sam Laporta is awesome, but you are trading high on Sam Laporta and you're buying low on Devonta Smith.
And it's not like I got I don't know an Amari Cooper back for him. I wouldn't have done that, but I feel like Devonta Smith is young enough, safe enough, good enough to where it's worth it.
Yeah.
And speaking of which, yes, he is my start of the week.
Start of the week and run.
He has a habit of destroying the Commanders for whatever reason. He always has a good game against them. The Commanders' pass defense is not amazing.
It's not good.
No, they have been shredded by Russell Wilson, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts has already done it against them this year. Justin Fields threw all over him. Even Desmond Ritter threw all over him. Tyrod Taylor threw all over him. So I think Devonta Smith, he's been disappointing this year. He's not what you've hoped, but I think he kind of has a get-right game this week against the Commanders.
I can see it. I am a big A.J. Brown guy, always have been, but I do think this run he's on, where he's basically hogged all the targets and Devonta Smith has been shut out of the offense, that's going to come to an end at some point. I don't know if it happens Sunday. It might continue, but there's going to come a point where Devonta Smith resurfaces and we're like, oh, yeah, he's really good too.
And both of these guys can live in this offense. It's kind of it's been weird. It's not the Eagles offense I think we all expected. They've kind of been up and down. But we've seen both of these guys be viable at the same time in the same offense. So they're going to get back to where they were.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at just the distribution, the passing pie is really small. They throw it to 3 guys and 3 guys only. Quez Watkins gets in there occasionally, but there's nothing really of note there. It's A.J. Brown, number 1. And then Devonta Smith and Dallas Goedert this year have sort of battled it out for that number 2 spot. There has been a couple games where, Smith has been the number 1 guy and A.J. Brown has been the number 2. There's been, I think there was one game where A.J. Brown was pretty much the only receiver to really do much of anything, and the other 2 didn't do a ton. But, for the most part, there's kind of that hierarchy. And the past few weeks when Dallas Goedert has shown up, it meant that Devonta Smith was sort of shut out, hasn't been able to be the second guy. There's going to be some sort of shuffle at some point where I think Brown, at the end of the season, we're going to look at it and be like, yeah, Brown was dominant. He was great. But there will be a few weeks here and there when Smith looks incredible, has a fantastic week, goes out and has 125, 130 yards. That will happen.
But he's still averaging around 7 to 8 targets a game. So
yeah,
from a good quarterback, you'll take that.
You will take that. So, yeah, Smith, maybe it doesn't happen this week, but it will happen at some point. And the Commanders are a good bet. They're not great.
Yeah, he's always good against them. And not that A.J. Brown is bad. It's just, for whatever reason, Devonta Smith just kills them.
Yeah. Mine is going to be Zay Flowers versus the Cardinals. And this is pretty much a pure, the Cardinals defense sucks. They're bottom 10 in pass yards allowed, bottom 10 in pass touchdowns allowed. And, man, the Ravens offense played they played a perfect game this past weekend. And they've looked really good. I think if you look at the season in totality, they have looked like they're humming more than they haven't. And it looks like they've sort of built up to the point where this past Sunday, they were dominant against a really good Lions defense. And I think that's more of a sign of things to come than it was them just having a one-off week. I think they have put together really nice stretches in games. I mean, Lamar Jackson had, 13 of 14 at one point a couple weeks ago in the first half. He'll put on a clinic for a half. Their passing game looked great, and then it'll slow down and stumble in the second half. They finally played a complete game. And I just think with the first-year coordinator, with these new receivers, things look like they're finally rolling. And the Cardinals come at a really good time for them. This is a week that I think the offense as a whole, you fire it up again. You keep it rolling. Zay Flowers is the number 2 target in the offense. He's the number 1 receiver in the offense. I think maybe he has a deep shot. Maybe he scores. I don't know. But I think he comes through for fantasy this week.
Yeah, I'm good with that. I like it.
All right, last segment here. We're going to talk about some guys that could be traded at the deadline and where we think they're going to go. We'll break down what the scenario could look like, where they might show up, and what they might leave behind. So number 1, it's Derrick Henry. We think he's going to get traded at the deadline. I think this is going to be the least surprising of any of the ones we talk about, which is probably why we have him first. We've got him going to the Ravens.
I mean, that's the one. It's not surprising. It's the one everybody's talking about. But, I mean, it makes sense.
It does.
There's a need there. The Titans are clearly rebuilding and tearing it down. So, Henry and DeAndre Hopkins, for that matter, both of them, should be top of your trade list.
I didn't even think to put DeAndre Hopkins on this list, but he also probably would fit there. I don't know what his
Yeah.
contract like. Would they be able to trade
Heck,
that contract?
send them both to the Ravens.
Oh, there you
If
go.
you're the
That'd be
the
great.
Ravens, what would you pay to get both of those guys? I will give you
Second, a third.
a second round pick, and give me both of them.
Yeah, that would probably get done. The Titans. I mean, I don't know. Maybe the Titans are like, we just paid DeAndre Hopkins a bunch of money, and Derrick Henry is our best player in the past decade. No thanks. But I don't know. They need picks. They don't have any picks. They're about to start Will Levis. He puts mayonnaise in his coffee. I mean,
The guy's crazy.
dude's nuts. I don't know that it has anything to do with his football ability, but he's nuts. So, you know.
He's from Kentucky. What do you expect?
Yeah, I mean, what would the Titans look like with Derrick Henry moving on? I mean, Tyjae Spears instantly gets vaulted into
gosh,
RB2
he
territory.
skyrockets.
Yeah, he's looked really good at points this year, but just hasn't had enough of the work to really stand out. He would be a maybe not league winner, but one of those guys that is on good teams down the stretch.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Ravens would have the need at running back.
Yeah, if you think it's frustrating watching Gus Edwards steal touchdowns from Lamar Jackson, wait till it's Derrick Henry back there. Lamar
I
will not
know.
get another red zone touch the rest of the season.
I'll say what I told you earlier today. If they added Derrick Henry, I know he's 29, but Derrick Henry's a lot better right now at 29 than Gus Edwards is. And with the offense that they run, I feel like he would just eat. And Derrick Henry eating is just good for everybody. It elevates the whole offense and gives you more scoring opportunities overall. Yeah, he probably would vulture a couple. But like
He's gonna get more than a couple.
I don't think it would be a situation where he would just come in and devour everything. I mean, they're not giving up like 3 first-round picks for him. Like Derrick Henry would come in and he would not be. It would be different. It wouldn't just be like Derrick Henry goes out and plays 98% of snaps and has 33 carries. Like that would not happen. He'll have 12 carries a game, and he might average 5.5 yards a carry. But I mean, it's
And 2
not going to be the
touchdowns.
same thing. Maybe, maybe. But like
I can't wait for the conversations you text me. Like in one of our main dynasty leagues, it's a 1 quarterback league, but you have Lamar Jackson and you have Justin Herbert. You got Justin Herbert like his rookie year and just have had him. And
Yeah.
it's almost every Sunday you text me like, do I start Lamar or Herbert? And most of the time I say Herbert. But I can't wait for now. Like you start Lamar over Herbert. Herbert goes out there, tosses 3 touchdowns, and Lamar has 179 yards passing, 60 rushing, and no touchdowns because Derrick Henry scored 2 and Gus Edwards had 1.
Yeah. That would be brutal. I will say I have dodged like the landmines this year between picking which one of those 2 to start. I mean, I got the great Lamar performance this past week. I think I dodged his.
Even I
like,
agreed with you
tank
this week to
weeks.
start him though.
Yeah, this week.
I'm not starting people against the Chiefs. Like,
No, thank you. And yeah, and again, I think I'm firing up again. Arizona is.
well, that's too juicy a matchup though.
That's too nice. Okay, next one here. We've got Jerry Jeudy being traded to the Carolina Panthers.
God, they need a receiver. Do something.
They need one badly.
Do something.
Do you think that they're actually going to be buyers at the deadline, or do you think they're going to be sellers? Because I haven't made up my mind about that.
I would hope to be buyers, especially with they don't even have their own pick this year. So go get somebody. Help Bryce Young out.
That's what I think. But at the same time, it just feels dumb. Maybe because it's just like like if you're bad and the Panthers are bad, you don't buy at the deadline. But you're right, they don't have their picks, so they don't benefit from sucking. They need it. Their only avenue out is try to win. Obviously, I know everybody tries to win, but still.
I say that's the. I mean, obviously, we're no GMs, but I mean, at least from the common viewer like myself, that would be the thing. Is like, I know you're not gonna make the playoffs or anything, but you don't have your own pick. You've got a really solid young quarterback. He just needs help. So why
Yeah.
would you not do your best to help him grow through the second half of this season and see what you got next year?
Yeah, and I mean Jerry Judy fits with that. I think he's got 2 years left, so it's not an expiring contract. Double check me on that because I'm not 100% sure. But I mean, it's a young receiver. It's another guy that can get open for Bryce Young. Somebody that can stretch the field, and they have desperately needed somebody who can stretch the field. Adam Thielen's been the only show in town. They just need more pass catchers, and they have had such a low volume offense, such a like a just a really poor like I don't know how to describe their offense. It's not that their offense is bad, but it's bad. They just don't have the ability to stretch the field at all.
Jerry Judy's in year 4, so they could exercise his 5th-year option this year.
Okay. So this year and next year, and then they'd have to pay him. Cool.
Might not have to pay him that much because he hasn't been that good.
He has not. He has been a jag.
Alrighty. Number 3. This one's more of a pipe dream.
This is a little spicy. We have one that's more spicy, but this one is kind of spicy. Marquise Brown, we think he's going to the Chiefs. It's no secret. The Chiefs would like another receiver. They would benefit from another receiver. I think it's the Marquise Brown part of this that's a little bit more interesting.
I think this is just we want to see Marquise Brown catching passes from Patrick Mahomes.
It would be
You
incredible.
know how good he would be?
That would be
Oh my
incredible.
gosh.
You thought he was great when he had Lamar Jackson throwing him deep bombs. Oh my goodness. Would Patrick Mahomes benefit from having Marquise Brown?
Yeah, the Chiefs, I mean, I think they're probably already the favorite as it is in the AFC, but they become the overwhelming favorite in the AFC. Got Marquise Brown.
Yeah, because realistically, their only weakness on that entire roster is that they just need one more pass catcher, another guy that you can depend on, and ideally somebody who can stretch the field. Because Kadarius Toney hadn't been anything, no, not really been anything down the field. Sky Moore hadn't really been anything, hadn't been much down the field. Rasheed Rice, I think, is a good possession receiver,
Yeah,
but
he's been
hasn't.
he's been an intriguing receiver that's more and more on people's radars as of now.
Yes, but I don't. He's not Marquise Brown down the field.
No.
And Travis Kelsey's 34, 33, whatever he is. So he's no spring chicken.
He's still having 180 yards and 12 catches, so
He is.
You tell
he's
me.
still really good. But it's not like he's going 40 yards down the field catching passes. He's going.
he did
running
have that
a
one
10-yard
bomb against the Chargers where he just left the safety.
He did do that. He just knows how to get open, man.
Of course, you also, I mean, to be fair, you can't expect that every game.
You cannot. Marquise Brown, though, he can work down the field. He can really stretch things, open things up for that.
And he's
offense,
just a
so.
good receiver in general. Like he does intermediate work, short work. Like, he can do it all. He's one of the more underrated receivers, I would say, in the league.
Yeah, I mean, he is not Tyreek Hill, but I think he does a light version of a lot of the same things Tyreek Hill does.
Yeah. So I don't necessarily know what's going to happen. I don't think I would expect this one, especially with them potentially activating Kyler Murray. Why would you trade your best weapon and then throw Kyler out there to the dogs? Like, all right, go work with nobody.
Yeah.
So
That's like the one hang up there where, like, obviously the Cardinals aren't great. They could be sellers at the deadline, but it doesn't necessarily make them better
wouldn't be
long term.
I wouldn't be stunned if they traded Kyler, I'll be honest.
I wouldn't either. I would not either. I would not
I
be
don't
surprised
necessarily
whatsoever.
expect them to because I don't know his contract situation, but I would imagine they would have to pay a boatload of money and just take a huge dead cap if they move him.
Yes.
But if you're gonna move him and go get the number 1 overall pick, you might as well do it, right?
I guess.
I mean, I don't know.
Just let it rip. At this point, I don't know that that's really worth doing, but if you're gonna do it, you can full send it. Let's see here. Next one, we've got Darnell Mooney
I like this
being
one.
traded. This one is interesting. I thought about it a little bit, and it made a lot of sense because he just hasn't quite popped in the Chicago offense the way we've seen him in years past. DJ
Well,
Moore has
to be
kind of
fair,
been
the
their dude.
Chicago offense is not good.
That too. Chicago's offense is not good. DJ Moore has clearly set himself up as the number one receiver there, and Cole Kmet, I think, has been number 2 pass catcher. He's a very solid tight end that nobody talks about. But all that aside, Darnell Mooney, we think he's going to the Chargers.
I would be ecstatic to see this happen.
That sounds nice.
That sounds very nice. Have we not been saying Chargers need another dang receiver
They do.
desperately,
They need a lot
and
of
a new
things.
head coach?
Yeah, and a new GM and a new defense, and they need to stop paying all these dudes so much money.
All that aside, Darnell Mooney would fit really well with that offense.
He would be so great. Imagine
He can
if they
stretch
would've
the
just,
field. He can run routes.
he can he can catch passes.
Which is
Imagine-
something Quentin Johnston can't do.
No, not at all. Imagine if they would have just drafted Zay Flowers instead of Quentin Johnston. Then they wouldn't have to do this at all.
That's what I wanted. You know how mad I was when they took him?
Yeah.
I was so, because like throughout the whole draft process, I was very low on Quentin Johnston. I didn't love his college tape. I didn't love his athletic profile, his, ability, his route running, all that kind of stuff. I mean, not that he's necessarily bad, but like he just doesn't pop like these other guys do to me.
Yeah.
And JSN was falling. And right the pick before the Chargers were on, like I thought, like, yes, they're gonna get Jackson Smith and Jigma. And then the Seahawks took him, which not super surprising, kind of devastated, but and I'm like, okay.
Low-key
I was kind of devastated.
Don't worry, I'm fine.
I was like, it's okay, we can bounce back. Jordan Addison's still on the board, who I wanted him to take.
Yeah.
Zay Flowers, like, I didn't love Zay Flowers either. I will fully admit I was wrong about him. But I liked him better than Quentin Johnston. And no, they took Johnston over Addison and Flowers. And Addison and Flowers look great this year.
Yeah. When we were doing our pre-draft, like rookie film dive, stat dive, whatever you want to call it, when we were just figuring out if these rookies are any good, obviously it was JSN is great. I really like Zay Flowers. I was the one that was like outlier high on Zay Flowers. I don't know what it was. Maybe I fell in love with his ridiculous percentage of team stats in college. Maybe it was the fact that I am an NC State fan and I understand completely how terrible Boston College is. I don't know what it was, but I was like, Zay Flowers is a really good player. And then Jordan Addison, it was like, yeah, I mean, dude won a Biletnikoff with Kenny Pickett. Then he went to USC and was really good with Caleb Williams. He's good. The one question mark was Quentin Johnston. And I remember the conversations we were having where it was like, before the draft, before we knew where he went, we were like, he's good, but like, it's just, I don't know what it is, because analytically, this dude should be a freaking monster. And he was fine, but not amazing. And then he goes to the Chargers, and it's like, okay, well, those analytics just, it doesn't matter. He's got Justin Herbert. If he's going to succeed, it's going to happen because he's got Justin Herbert. And it hasn't happened.
No. I
It's
mean,
very frustrating.
he's big. He's big receiver, big body. They kind of already had it with Mike Williams, and I know he got hurt, but you can't predict an injury that early. But like, he's not as fast as you would think for an athletic freak of a big receiver. He's not a good route runner. He doesn't have really good footwork. He's kind of more of a body catcher. He doesn't really catch with his hands. I just don't think he's that good of a receiver.
Guess not.
And maybe I'm out too early on him. I don't know.
That also could be a thing too. Maybe it's just it hasn't happened for
I've got
any
this
number of
set
reasons.
it's been set in my head since before the draft process.
Yeah.
But to this point, I haven't been proven wrong either. So
Yeah. And I think what's frustrating about it too is that he's been so, like, there's been not one single flash that you can point to that you can sell him for. That you can say, you can go paint the picture in a trade negotiation of saying, yeah, I know he hasn't been great, but like, remember that one play? There hasn't been the one play that you can point to yet.
yeah. And
So it's a little weird.
piggybacking off that, that's another thing is like Mike Williams did in fact get hurt. So like, That role is wide open, and he still hasn't stepped forward and taken it.
Yeah, Josh Palmer was like, actually, nope, that's mine. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And Johnston just hadn't made the cut, which has been weird. So, all of that to say, we wish it was Zay Flowers. We wish it was Addison. We wish it was Jackson Smith and Jake Webb. But it's Johnston, and now you just kind of got to wait for something to happen. Because
And if they traded for Darnell Mooney, he would fit that role beautifully.
Darnell Mooney would be great because that role has not been filled. They would benefit from another receiver and like everything else that you can think of too. Last one here. I'll let you take the throne on this one. You can.
This one,
I cede you the floor.
It might be hot takey. It might be not.
I think it is.
I don't necessarily. I don't think it happens. I'll say that. But I think it's possible that it could. It's not outside the realm of possibility that the Bengals do in fact trade T. Higgins. They've already made it pretty clear he is not part of their long-term plans. They do not plan to give him a contract extension. It's going to be Chase who gets it. It's going to go elsewhere. So obviously T. Higgins, nothing personal, but he's going to be the odd man out. So you kind of got a couple different options. Obviously, you wouldn't mind keeping him, helping you win this year because he's a great receiver. He helps Joe Burrow. It's, your team's not going to be hurting by having T. Higgins. You want him on the team. But at the same time, there are other teams with real need at receiver, and it's very possible that they could just decide to go and get something now for him rather than just let him walk in free agency.
I can see the argument. At the same time, so you've got him going to the Panthers, and I think the Panthers can just sign him in free agency. I also understand from their point of view wanting to trade for him and bypass the bidding war because there will be a bidding war.
He's been the receiver that I said if the Panthers go get one, it's going to be T. Higgins just because he's young. Obviously, the Bengals aren't going to keep him, and there's such a need there. T. Higgins would flourish because you can instantly throw him into the one role and be happy about it.
Yeah. But from the Bengals' perspective, I don't know that they would do that because I think they've still got a puncher's chance at a playoff berth. A very good puncher's chance, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, nobody's going to be surprised if they go on a win streak and are the 3-4 seed.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think when you've got that as a possibility for your season, T. Higgins is going to be a big part of that. And I think you're right. I don't think they re-sign him. But I think they keep him around this year, make a run at the Super Bowl, and then cut him loose and draft the receiver in the first round. And then just run it back again next year.
I mean, Chase is going to get that contract. We know. Chase is going to be... Yes. Jefferson's going to get his contract first. Jefferson's going to be the highest paid receiver, and then Chase is going to be the highest paid receiver. That's what's going to happen.
It will. It will. And T. Higgins, unfortunately, will be the odd man out. So I think regardless, we are agreed he will not be a Bengal next year. It's just a matter of do they trade him now or do they just let him walk in free agency after they run it back?
Like I said, I kind of agree with you that they probably just keep him because he helps you out more now than just getting something in return for him. But it also wouldn't shock me if they did move off of him.
Yeah, it would be weird. I wonder what kind of signal that would send to the rest of the team if you trade. I mean, Higgins is your number 2, but he is very good. That offense.
People have argued this many times. Is he the best number 2 in the league? Very possibly.
Very possibly. So, I don't know how that would fly in the locker room if they were to go make that move, but it's not my job to care.
I don't get paid to make these decisions.
I wouldn't mind what if
NFL teams sign me as a GM. I wouldn't be upset about it.
You wouldn't.
But
that would be nice. That would be nice. All righty. That'll do it for this episode. Anything else you want to add before we get out of here and go watch this game?
I'm just excited to watch Josh Allen. I don't miss a Josh Allen game.
There you go.
Good or bad, I love my boy.
Fingers crossed Dalton Kincaid goes nuts in about 20 minutes.
Wouldn't mind seeing it because I'm going up against Diggs in one of our main dynasty leagues.
Oh, there you go.
Also have him in another main dynasty league. Conflict of interest.
Don't you love it?
I think I would rather Diggs just have a decent game, 10 to 13 points, and then Josh Allen throws 4 touchdowns all to Dalton Kincaid.
I would love that, except for the part where I have Dalton Kincaid on my bench in too many places to count, and it would not be fun.
You idiot.
I'd be that guy who had 30 fantasy points on his bench. Never a fun time.
I've been that guy many times and will continue to be.
It will happen again, I guarantee you.
Oh, yeah.
That'll do it for this one. We'll see you next week when we're breaking down everything that happened in week 8, all the studs, all the weenies, all the storylines. Can't wait to see you then. We'll see you.
Peace.